fly ball kind of pitcher, ground ball kind of contact to out pitcher. But he controls it. He stayed healthy except for just a little while last year. Now, Ryu has had a history of injury, and he's in my third tier. And he's 32 years old. And he's going from the National League West to the American League East. But a lot of promise. Toronto fans are excited. I'm excited for Ryu. If he can stay healthy, I'm looking for him to pick up some wins, to get some innings, and to be effective. Now, I know last year he pitched against the Yankees in Interleague, and he stunk. One game. I think he'll settle in if he can stay healthy. Speaking of staying healthy, my last two pitchers in my third tier. And before I get into this, just a little aside. Do you guys follow college basketball? Last night in Atlanta, Georgia Tech got their first top 5 team win since January 9, 2016, when they defeated last night in the ACC 5th-ranked Louisville 64-58. Georgia Tech improved to 12-12. Are you kidding me? And Louisville fell to 21-4. That's just college basketball. That's what makes it great. And I'm going to do some more shows coming up soon as we get closer to March Madness on college basketball, on when we get to the final, getting the bracketologies going, those kind of things. But I don't know if you had a chance to watch that game last night. Now, Phil Chaplin, I guess you watched the Mountaineers last night. I've just got to bring up that West Virginia led Kansas 30-24 at halftime. But Kansas outscored the Mountaineers 34-19 in the second half, and third-ranked Kansas 21-3 defeats the West Virginia Mountaineers 58-49. West Virginia falls to 18-6. They were 14th ranked in the country, but it was a tale of two halves as West Virginia outscored Kansas by 6 in the first, only to be outscored by 15 in the second half. Fourth in the Big 12, and now on Saturday at 4 p.m., West Virginia travels to number 1 ranked Baylor. I'm all over that one, Phil Chaplin. I got to be watching. My Tar Heels, they just absolutely are horrible. They're not living the dream. They're living the nightmare this year. The 2017 national champions are 2020's national chumps. Let's talk baseball. Let's finish out Tier 3 with 2 pitchers, 133, 131, one who has been injured and one who now is just recently injured. I want to start with the one you're going to not agree with. You're going to say, why have you got him in your third tier? And I'm going to tell you why. It's because of pure upside. Because you could argue Mike Soroka should be here instead. You could argue Trevor Bauer should be here instead. They're in my tier 4s, by the way. You could even argue Jose Berrios, Corey Kluber, Noah Syndergaard. All might be in my tier 3, and they're dang close. But the first one is going to be the one you're going to say, no way, I can't believe that, and that's why I'm putting him in, because I want to hear you talk. Yu Darvish, Chicago Cub, not great, 33-year-old. Pitched pretty well at times last year and other times not well at all. Now, on the road, Darvish had a 3.08 ERA. He struck out 120 batters in 93 innings. He had a K/9 away from the friendly confines of 11.6. And at home he had a K/9 of 11.5. It's not lack of strikeouts, it's just lack of control. He gave up, his ERA was almost 5 at home. 4.95. In 85 innings, he struck out 109, but in 85 innings at home he also gave up 19 home runs. That's his problem. Now, if Darvish can keep the ball in the park and strike out 11.6, if you're in a K per 9 league, if you're in a K league, look, he struck out 229 in under 200 innings. So even though he did not pitch consistently well, he still pitched well enough to give you numbers in a league where strikeouts matter, in a league where K per 9 matters, and his whip for the year was only 1.097. So when you start saying, Arnie, why have you got Yu Darvish in your tier 3? I've just told you why. So who rounds out my third tier? I can tell you, the second team with 3 pitchers in my top 23, in my top 3 tiers. The soon-to-be 2020 World Series champion New York Yankees. Yeah, I know that's going to get some attention. Draw some ire. James Paxton. Big Maple, who's out for a little while, and his backs can be tricky. Ask Clayton Kershaw. But Paxton seemed to settle in, and if this back injury, that's the if, because I could certainly replace him with Noah Syndergaard, Jose Barrios, Mike Soroka, Trevor Bauer, Madison Bumgarner, maybe even Frankie Montas. But I haven't. I digress. I have not replaced him. Paxton rounds out my third tier right now because of what I think he can offer. I'm looking upside when I get below pitchers, 1 through 15. K per 9 at home at Yankee Stadium last year, 11.2. K per 9 away from Yankee Stadium last year, 11.0. In 150 innings last year, he struck out 186 batters. You're going to get strikeouts if you can get games out of him. He won 15 games last year. Look, the Yankees, as I said earlier, I know I'm beating the drum again, but here we go. They're going to score a lot of runs, and pitchers are going to get some wins. I don't know if the Yankees are going to win 110 games, but I sure bet you they win more than 100. And some starting pitcher is going to leave the 5th or 6th inning with a lead a lot. And one of those could well be Big Maple James Paxton, the lefty, the 31-year-old, who's also entering a walk season. Yes, James Paxton will be a free agent at the end of this season. All the more incentive for him to come out smoking. Yeah, smoking James Paxton. So let's round up our tier 3, not necessarily in order. Oh, why not? Do them in order, Arnie. Charlie Morton, Patrick Corbin, Luis Severino, Zach Greinke, Aaron Nola, Luis Castillo, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Tyler Glasnow, Yu Darvish, Lucas Giolito, and Big Maple James Paxton. So let's look at some other news other than just my tiers. We'll do some more pitching next week, okay? Because there's a lot more pitching to cover. But I think some news that's important, as pitchers and catchers have now reported. First of all, there's a news conference probably going on as I'm talking to you. Here I am talking to you while the Astros are talking to the world. If you didn't set your VCR to record at 9:30, then you probably missed it. Because they were going to talk, Dusty Baker and the team players. I did record it, so we'll probably talk about it some next week. I prefer on here to talk about what might happen in fantasy and not about the other stuff. You can get that anywhere. You can't get this stuff just anywhere, right? So let's talk about some fantasy impact. Oakland A baseball, the swinging A's. Oakland Athletics manager Bob Melvin said in a conference on the day pitchers and catchers report, there's no plan for a specific innings limit for either starting pitcher, Jesus Luzardo or A.J. Puck. Both top left-handed prospects for Oakland, Luzardo and Puck, have extremely high fantasy ceilings. Now, the A's are expected to limit their innings eventually this season. Luzardo is the team's top prospect, and Puck comes in at number 2. They are certainly high-end starters and big players in Oakland's rotation if they can stay healthy, which was a bugaboo for Luzardo last year. And remember, Puck came up and pitched in the bullpen. But because of their strikeout upside, the question is, where do they get drafted this year? Now that Oakland's coming out saying no plan to limit them, they're both hard throwers. Oakland's going to be a playoff team, or at least a contender if they don't make it. They're going to be big. They're going to pitch big. They're going to strike out batters. And they're going to get drafted pretty high, don't you think? How about Minnesota Twins starting pitcher Rich Hill, formerly of the Red Sox, formerly of the A's, just mentioned, formerly of the Dodgers. Rich Hill's elbow caused him to go on the shelf at the end of last year. He's now on his second week of throwing. He'll ramp up to throwing long toss in a few weeks. And he expects a month-long rehab assignment in May and a return to the major leagues pitching for the Twins in June. And if he's healthy, what a big jolt that will be for the Twins. You know, they added Kenta Maeda, finally with the Mookie Betts trade going through. The Dodgers just sent Maeda over to the Twins in a separate deal, not involving Mookie. But the Twins now have Maeda. They'll have Hill. He should be back in May. He'll turn 40 in March, but he's a junk baller. He throws that great curveball. He only made 13 starts last year for the Dodgers, but when he did pitch, he had a 2.45 ERA, a 1.13 whip, and 11 K per 9 in 58 and 2/3 innings. Minnesota, that's a pitcher-friendly park. So the big question with Hill is not opportunity unless he's not healthy. If he's healthy and finally through those injuries that have plagued him, if it's not an injury, it's been a blister, it's been something. But if Rich Hill can pitch from May through the end of the year, boy, what a plus that would be for the Twins. News out of Miami. Miami Marlins manager and former Yankee great and should-be Hall of Famer Donnie Mattingly said that newly signed infielder Jonathan Villar will play the middle of the field in his first year in Miami, noting that being as center field, second base, and shortstop, he will not play third, it doesn't appear. So second base, shortstop, and center field, what a value that could be to have a player like Villar playing all of those positions for fantasy in 2020. Now, Villar was, wow, what a find he was in 2019. I know he played for the Orioles, but wow, he hit 274. He had a slugging percentage of 453, on-base percentage of 339, 24 home runs, scored 111, 73 RBIs, 40 stolen bases. And if he can play all those positions, what a draft pick he could be. That could be a steal of a draft. Because I think people who play for Miami, hitters especially, aren't given a lot of kudos. Villar, going to play all over the place. News out of Kansas City camp is that catcher Salvi Perez caught a bullpen session on Wednesday, and his surgically repaired right elbow is at 90%. If you remember last year, he hurt his elbow during spring training, had Tommy John surgery, missed the entire season. He's now hitting, he's throwing the bases, and Salvi expects to be ready by opening day. He's a 5-time Gold Glover. He's the 2015 World Series Most Valuable Player. In 2017 and 2018, he hit 27 home runs in each season. So he's a high-end catching player for fantasy. And also Mike Matheny has said he's not ruling out playing him some at first base. to keep him healthy. So it looks like they're trying to keep that